Hey, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. Unfortunately, we are here tonight to talk about a 3-2 Cubs loss. That being said, I am Ron Luce, joined tonight by the Juice Man himself. Sir, how are you doing?
Good. Wish tonight's game went a little better, but with that said, that's what happens when you run into a pitcher like that and a short-staffed Cub team that it was tonight. And, they've done a lot of good things lately, but, recapping a loss, it just seems like every time I get on these, I'm recapping losses. Doesn't it? I don't recap a lot of wins this year so far.
I know it feels like Cody and Joe get to recap mostly wins. I've been kind of hit and miss. And then I feel like anytime it's you and I, it's usually a loss. Although we did have that Dodgers win to talk about though the other night.
We did. That was fun. We had 2 wins. Was that 2-win doubleheader day that we were on the
next
pod
day?
together?
So we got the Rizzo walk off.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
We got the Riz walk off, which was a good one.
These all like jumble into one as you keep doing them.
That's the thing with baseball, man. Is it's like one day you're like, oh yeah, this game was played, and then the next day you're like, wait a minute, when was that again? Was it yesterday? Was it today? Like I thought today was Monday. I'll just be completely honest. I don't know what day of the week it is anymore, man. But no, man. I mean, and in fairness, and to bring up a great point to lead things off, right? I mean, when you're the Cubs and you run into Shane Bieber, sure, he hasn't been very good of late. And I say hasn't been very good of late, but like he still had like a 3.67 ERA over the last 4 starts, which in the AL especially is still incredibly good. So like he just hasn't been elite his last 4 starts. But tonight, the Cubs able to get to him a little bit early. Obviously, Willie knocks in that first run. Cubs are up 1-0 early. Alzolay dealing early on. Like things looked good for the Cubs, and just unfortunately tonight for Alzolay, the long ball is really all that plagued him. Otherwise he looked really good tonight. So Juice, we can start there. What are just kind of some of your opening thoughts of this 3-2 loss?
Yeah, I think every Adbert Alzolay start for me has been hard to watch, and it's not because of his pitching. It's because I'm teetered between 2 Cubs teams, I think. I'm teetered between the one that won you the World Series, and you're trying to keep your expectations at, win the division, get into the playoffs, spin the wheel. And then on the other side, it's like you got Adbert Alzolay, who is still kind of a work in progress, but he's getting you excited for those future Cubs teams. He's had a very good run, and he's showing some great stuff. We talk about that slider all the time with that, upper mid-90s fastball that he's able to, hurl up there. And the thing with him is if he's that good, how good is Braylon Marquez? How good is everybody else that you're talking about, that we haven't seen yet? So and he, Adbert was kind of the project, right? He was didn't have very high expectations. Now, as this is kind of moved forward, he's able to, put some good starts together. And now he looks like a polished product. And it's almost like when you watch these games, you have to understand that, he's going out there to try to get better every day, which every baseball player is, but his is more long-term based. And I think it just is it's so clashed against what this team is and where this team is right now, right? You got some veterans like Jake Arrieta, and and the guys in the lineup like Jason Hayward and obviously Anthony Rizzo and the guys who had won this World Series. They're trying to win now. They're trying to make the dance and spin the wheel. But the problem is that this team is they're very hurt right now too. That's a big problem that they're foreseeing in the future here. I mean, I don't know. They're gonna have to piece a lot of guys together to just get through. Now with Marisnik down, and like I said, tonight was a limited lineup because they really didn't have Javi being scratched early, and you're already kind of down a couple guys due to injuries. And the problem with that is that there's a long stretch of baseball coming up, of where they need to stack some wins to stay in this thing. And it's so hard to watch these Adbert starts just because me, the fan, is so excited for the future, but I need to put my other, glasses on to say, well, I need to watch what's going on with this Cubs team now, and that's so hard, I think, for the fan to teeter back and forth between, Obviously being happy that he had a good start. He looks good, but also like there's some big problems in terms of health with this lineup. And for the immediate future, it's going to be hard for this Cubs team to stay at 500, let alone piece some wins together. I think if they don't have the guys that Jed Hoyer kind of brought in to bridge until next year, where they have a lot of cash to spend.
Yeah, and I think that's a great place to start, right? You mentioned this current Cubs team, and this current Cubs team is unfortunately very hurt because right now you have Jake Arrieta on the IL, you have Nico Horner on the IL, you have Ian Happ on the IL, you have Jake Marisnick, who just went to the IL today. Oh, and KB got pulled from tonight's game. Thankfully, it sounds like he was just a little under the weather, so nothing too terribly serious.
Get a Lamar Jackson.
If that were the case, honestly, that would be absolutely hysterical. I mean, I don't think anybody having to run to take a shit is funny, but like just the video behind the Lamar Jackson like incident of him, like you can tell he's running and clinching as he gets to the locker room. That part of it is what makes me laugh. But and then on top of it, you mentioned too with Javi Baez being scratched before tonight's game, kind of late with that lower back. I almost think he's destined for an IL trip too. So this was something I think a lot of people anticipated coming to this year. I know I did from a very nerd standpoint as a commissioner of a fantasy baseball league. I added IL spots this year because I knew like going 60 to 162 is not easy. So it was really easy to say, you know what, they're going to be really hurt. And honestly, the Cubs were really lucky the month of April, staying pretty healthy.
Yeah.
And now it's catching up to them right now, and you got impact guys too, which is what makes it hard because guys like Nico Horner, guys like Jake Arrieta, who admittedly until Hendricks and Davies had their rebound games these last couple outings, he was their most consistent pitcher really this whole season so far. And then you add on to that now, and they have no outfield depth anymore. I mean, fuck, KB's playing center field every single day at this point. Jock is going to get more time. Now, granted, don't let Jock heat up. Don't let Jock get hot,
he
baby.
Looks good.
Jock
he looks
gets
good
hot.
The last couple.
He does. Don't let Jock get hot. But, but overall, right, like this Cubs team, to me, the reason if they're going to have success here in 2021 is because of that depth that they've shown in the month of April, especially offensively. Guys like Matt Duffy, guys like Jake Marisnick, guys like Eric Sogard, who had a home run today. Those type of guys right now, guys like Nico Horner, guys like Ian Happ. Obviously, KB is playing at an MVP clip. So you need a healthy Cubs team, in my opinion, for kind of tying it back to your point, the current now team to be successful in 2021. And these injuries could really derail them. Thankfully, yes, Cleveland is good. They're second place in the AL Central behind the White Sox. But you have a really bad Detroit Tigers team this weekend. You have an off day on Thursday, so that always helps. And then you go back to Wrigley for 4 with the East Cubs. I mean the Washington Nationals. For 4 then Monday through Thursday. But so you're hoping some of those guys maybe get healthy during that Detroit series because otherwise, like you said, there might be at some point in the next month and a half, and I don't even like thinking like this right now. And it's not even like they're playing bad, but if you can't stay healthy and you don't have that depth to help you stay healthy, you're going to have to play guys you wouldn't normally play, and that might lead to a lot more losses. Like tonight, we could sit here and argue all we want. What if Nico Horner's in the lineup? The way, especially he was hitting before he went on the IL. What if Javi's even in the lineup? Do they win tonight's game? Maybe.
It's a good possibility.
So that's something that I think a lot of people need to consider, right? Like, to me, the key to the 2021 season for any MLB team, especially if they want to win the World Series, is going to be health. It's going to be health because guys are not used to the 162. It's been almost a full 2 years since these guys geared up for a season thinking we're going to play 162 this year. And that's really hard to think about for a lot of people, but having a whole year off is really hard to rebound from. Hell, just look at, and I know I'm ranting here, so I'll wrap this thing up.
No, I love it.
Look at Craig Kimbrell, right? When he signed with the Cubs, he only sat out half a season, and it took him we're a year and a half technically later since he signed that he finally looks like the Craig Kimbrell of old. Like, these guys are going to take time to adjust. And unfortunately, right now, it really feels like this Cubs team would only be their worst enemy because of injuries. But I agree with you, Juice. Like, I like watching Alzolay because I sit here and I go, wow. Like, I think what was his tonight's start? His 13th career start.
So yeah.
And I'm like,
something like
wow. wow, he's going to be so fun to watch for so long because he was 1-for-1 with Bieber tonight with those breaking balls. Mm-hmm. It felt like every other inning, breaking ball, he's gone. Breaking ball, he's gone. Just trading back and forth early in this game, and then like you said, then you put the goggles on about the 2021 Cubs, and you put the blinders on a little more to focus on this current team.
And then you're like, shit. Shit. Bro. Martini has to take a bat in the ninth because and it's when you look at this Cubs team, that's what I think is the most frustrating part of it, right? Because for forever and forever, we had to pay for pitching. And now it's like, all right, now they're transitioning their farm system into having these arms so they don't have to go out and buy them. Right. And now it's like, man, your position players can't stay healthy. Your guys like Nico Horner and Ian Happ, who I watched those games in the Adbert side of the lenses, saying I want to see them get better because I think that those are the guys that are going to be here in the future. Not to say that guys like Chris Bryant or Javi Baez won't. It's just we don't know yet. They don't have contracts that are based after this year. So in these losses, we have these conversations like this because, and let's be honest, tonight's game was a matter of 2 mistakes by a young pitcher, and Shane Bieber's really, really good at baseball. And after that, once you get to that bullpen for Cleveland, they've been fantastic all year. So that's what happened tonight. In a couple man down Cub team, that's the synopsis of what happened tonight. But when you lose these games, you start to watch these starts in terms of the younger players for the future. And when I watch these games, I want to see guys like Horner and Ian Happ out there because that's the guys that I think are going to be the big cornerstones for the future, if not contributors to 2022 and on. Mm-hmm. And that's what really I think tonight was almost like you got the cake, but you only got like the base of the cake. There was no frosting. You know what I mean? Like
it's a really good analogy.
It didn't have all the bells and whistles. Mm-hmm. It's all, or like you can even go to the car analogy. Like you got a car, but it didn't have a radio or the touch screen or cruise control.
You got the Chevy Camaro, but you didn't get the ZL1. Yeah,
right. So like when you look at what's going on with this team now, it's hard to evaluate it, right? As we sit here and watch, because the one part of us wants to be like, hey, win. You know what I mean? Right. But another part's like, we watch these games to watch these younger guys get better this year, don't we? Mm-hmm. Because, and I hate to say it on this podcast, but the first time I say it all year, I hope they make the playoffs. I hope they get in, but our expectations for them winning the whole thing would probably be really low.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it would have to be a perfect situation of them getting hot, them, finding the at-bats at the right time, the pitching all gelling together, or, you know what I mean?
Right.
With that said, you need to kind of watch these games from here on out with 2 different perspectives.
I agree. And that's right. That's the key because, it is really a weird season. Like this is the first, again, we go back to what Jed kind of hinted at early in the season. And we all kind of sat there and went, oh, rubbish. This is bullshit. But now like it's coming into frame a little more. Yeah, it's coming into frame a little more that it is really a transition year and not from a sake of we are transitioning to not be competitive this year. We're trying to be competitive, but we're also trying to transition to see who's going to be a part of this future going forward, right? Because like you said, the Nico Horners of the world, the Ian Happs of the world, the the KBs of the world, because let's be honest, he's the only one warranting an extension right now. I love Rizzo dearly, and I hope he's a Cub for life, because if he's in any other uniform, it's going to be like watching freaking – I'm sure it's going to be like how Green Bay Packers fans felt when Brett Favre went to the New York Jets or the Minnesota.
Well, they're about to feel that again real soon.
It's just going to be weird.
They're about to feel that real soon. We'll tap Bears on tap for it. Not to change topic, but make sure you go over to Bears on Tap. That is our Bears podcast here at On Tap Sports Network. They do a great job. They're always on the mic, and they are talking about that garbage fire that is going on up in Green Bay right now, and I'm so here for it. But, I mean, it really is, again, Juice, like you said, it is really such a weird year because, like, I want to see Nico Horner out there because Nico, to me, guys like Nico, guys like Ian Happ, and even guys like Alzolay right now, right? These younger guys that are maybe ahead of the curve of where the rest of the system kind of is that's coming.
And even Justin Seal and Keegan Thompson, who we're seeing contribute now out of the pen for the team. Like, these guys are the future, but they're also here to help now. And so, like, it's fun to watch that, right? Because you're like, cool,
Right.
like, you're helping us win games now when we're in a transition year, and like, they're only going to get better, But at the same time, like you said, like, you want to see this Cubs team make the playoffs, and it's games like tonight that frustrate you, because it's like, I mean, again, Shane Bieber threw, I think they said it was a career high 121 pitches tonight. Like, he's literally the only dude in the league right now that probably does that consistently. Let's just be honest. I think Trevor Bauer's great. I think Jake DeGrom's great. I think all those guys are great. But to me, Shane Bieber might be the best pitcher in the major leagues right now. Let's just call a spade here. And I'm really hoping that ignites some comments. I'm like, feed me some comments. But like, but like with Bieber, like the fact, Cody, our panelist here at Cubs on Tap, Cody tweeted right in that first inning. He says, wow. He says the Cubs getting 1 off of Bieber feels like 5. And it really did early on, because you're like, shit, that was a hard-earned run, but they got it. And you wish they would have been able to keep with it. They had opportunities. I think that's also what's frustrating. And you know what? Big shout out to one of our Cubs contributors. I hope we hear him on the mic at least once or twice this season, if not more. Our buddy Joe Maris, who writes for us here at On Tap. But he said it in his article that he recently just published, which was the weekly recap that he just put out. I highly recommend everybody to go read that, www.ontapsportsnet.com. But he said the Cubs this week, yes, they won. Damn it, Buzz. Yes, they won. Hi, Buzz. They won. They were 5-1 on the homestand, right? But like, I think they only won 1 game by more than a run, and then they lost their only game by a run. So like, the Cubs are playing a lot of close baseball games right now, and it really feels like they are not taking advantage of situations to pour it on, to take that 3, 4. Maybe even 5 or 6 run lead that you wish they would get to give, especially when you, like, Juice, you said it, and I wanted to jump out and be like, yes, you said it. To me, the biggest handicap for this season is the pitching, and it's the starting pitching. I don't think it's the bullpen. I think it's the starting pitching. I don't think the starting pitching is there right now, based on how they've performed through almost a month and a half of baseball now, to get the Cubs to a World Series if they get into the dance. And I think they still have that chance, but holy hell, like, I don't know, man.
And I
agree with you. It's so weird watching the game where, like, the right lens of your glasses is looking to the future and the left lens of your glasses is looking to the present.
Yeah, and that's I think too, like, it's really understated moments like this and what they mean to these young guys. Like, you talk about Adbert tonight going head-to-head with Bieber, and that'll stick in that man's head for a long time to build confidence. Yes. I always go back to, Kyle Hendricks back in 2015. Kyle was on the brink, 4th, 5th guy, but he went in and pitched a huge game at Busch Stadium in that playoffs to get the Cubs a W in 2015. And to me, that was almost a jumping off point for Kyle. After that, his 2016 was a great season.
Fact.
And since then, he's been our ace. Obviously, he's not having the season that he'd probably imagine to have this year so far, but that probably changes, right? I mean, we've watched Kyle Hendricks to know that he'll ascend back to his normal averages. He will. But I think we really understate what these reps during the regular season kind of mean for these guys who are especially young. And I think guys like Nico Horner, and I know Ian Happ's been up here for a long time, but with that said, these are reps that build confidence for the future to almost take that lead. There's a lot of question on who's going to be in this dugout next year, who's the leader. Yes. And when you're not out there to contribute and to build that confidence and to build that resume, it's really tough. And I think we understate, the way this has an effect on development for guys like Nico Horner.
Yeah.
And maybe tonight he comes up and he gets a big knock off Bieber, right? And that ends up building his confidence, and that's his taking off point. I think in a lot of ways, baseball and all sports in general are mental. Yes. It's having that confidence. It's having the ability in the resume to throw at somebody that says, hey, I made it, and I can make it here in the big leagues because I've produced. And the problem is right now is there's a lot of young guys on this team And I think a lot of staples for the future who are just hurt, and that's what kind of sucks too, because if you wanted to look at the other glass, want to go back to 2021 Cubs, you're looking at Jed Hoyer, and how do you decide on who to keep when guys like Javi Baez can't stay on the field? And like you said, you don't know how long, we don't know how long the back issue is going to be. Maybe he's in the lineup tomorrow. Maybe this is, a long-term DL stint coming up, but this is something that's plagued him for a little bit. We've been on this podcast talking about how he's had a back issue. Mm-hmm. And, I know Chris Bryant exited today for just illness, but it's also, how does Jed Hoyer, sit here and say, yeah, I'm paying this guy when Javi Baez can't stay on the field. You're looking at a struggling Rizzo. It's hard. It makes his job so much harder. You know what makes his job easier? All these guys go out and rake, and they all deserve the contract. And there's nobody who throws, a dart at you and says, that's bad money. The problem with it now is, I think if it continues like this, the water is going to be so murky that it's going to be really difficult for Jed Hoyer to distinguish, minus Chris Bryant, what's a bad contract and what's a good contract, because you just don't know, because there's just not enough information. And I know we're in May, things are going to change, but as of right now, it's just really frustrating to miss those reps, because each day is a tryout for these guys for the big contract. And it's a tryout for guys to stay in the league, and it's a tryout for the new guys who, are trying to, build a resume in the MLB. And, Edbert did a real good job tonight of building it. I think this is a jump-off point. Regardless of that he lost, had to take the L tonight, to go toe-to-toe with a guy like that and to have a good start and to keep building on good starts, I think it's something that really, down the line we're going to look at. Maybe this is a jumping-off point. But I always go back to Kyle Hendricks. That game 2, it was either game 2 or 3 in 2015. They needed that game. He went out and they won that one. He didn't have a great game. But ever since then, it was like Kyle Hendricks was a different dude.
Yeah, and he just took off. And I agree with you. And for those that maybe don't know what Alzolay's final stat line was for the night, he went 6 innings. He gave up 5 hits, the 3 earned runs. That was off the 2 home runs. He did not walk a single batter, and he struck out 6. So I agree with you, Juice. To me, that is a leaping off point, because this is a guy that with nasty stuff, and naturally it's very easy on a given night if the guy doesn't, any pitcher really that has nasty stuff, if you're not dialed in and you're not throwing and hitting your spots the way you need to, it's really easy to walk guys, because your stuff just breaks so hard. And if they sit on it and don't swing at it, they're going to take an easy walk if you throw too many sliders outside the zone or too many curves outside the zone or whatever it is. But, for Alzolay tonight, and really the entire Cubs pen, no Cubs pitcher tonight walked a batter. There was 0 walks issued to the Indians tonight. And I think that is huge.
Nice change in pace.
Magical change of pace, because this was, hell, we were bitching for the first 2-3 weeks of the season that this was their Achilles heel, was walking guys. And now tonight you see it. Sure, they 8 innings obviously because they're on the road and they get the loss, but a really nice night. 9 strikeouts between the 3 pitchers. Brad Wick, who was just recalled today after being a part of a no-hitter in AAA Iowa over the weekend.
I totally forgot he was a part of that.
I know, right? But he comes up today because of Marisnick going on the IL. He pitches a clean inning, has a strikeout himself. And then Rex Brothers, who, again, has just been such a pleasant surprise, I think, for this Cubs team. A lot of people don't realize how good he's actually been until you look at the numbers. But he goes a clean inning as well with 2 strikeouts. And he's actually one of the top – I saw a statistic today. I believe it was Bleacher Nation, who is, a friendly competitor of ours here at Cubs on Tap. But they tweeted out, I think it was today, that the Cubs have 4 of the top relief pitchers in swing and miss percentage or K rate or something crazy like that. 4 of the top 20 in all of baseball.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
Kimbrel's up there, Steele's up there. Rex Brothers is the highest ranking guy in the Cubs right now, which is most impressive. He's been so good for this Cubs team. So I really agree with you. Just it was a weird game, because it's one they probably should have won if they're fully healthy. I think they do win. They got to Bieber. They beat him up a little bit. He went 6 2/3. Yeah, he struck out 8, but he gave up 9 hits. He gave up the 2 runs and he walked 3. That's not a normal night for a guy like Shane Bieber. So this Cubs offense, even shorthanded, still got to him. But you wish they would have been able to win it, because now tonight feels like one of those games of what's the future look like versus where the current team at, you said. And it just sucks. And one quick thing, I do want to revisit the comments here. Our boy, the Riot, or Terrio. Well, Jesus Christ. I mean, it could be the Riot.
Well, you
or
can't quiet the Riot either.
Yeah, I mean, throwing it back to Ryan Terrio, man, those were the days. But Terrio or the Riot, 326 is love Bieber. DeGrom is the GOAT right now, but he's on the IL, so you might be right. LOL. Yeah, I mean, DeGrom is very good. I know Jake DeGrom's a stud. Don't get me wrong. I promise. But I think Shane Bieber gets forgotten about a lot too because he plays in Cleveland. Like if Shane Bieber's playing in New York for the Yankees, Shane Bieber's the most talked about pitcher in baseball. Like, let's just call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? It's like any guy that's in a small market, like Mike Trout. If Mike Trout's playing in a Dodgers uniform out in LA instead of an Angels uniform, he's on ESPN every single day for at least 25 minutes straight. Just Mike Trout every single moment. But he plays in a small market. So I completely agree with him there. But Juice, I think we've gone on about this game long enough. I don't want to depress people talking about the future because I really do think this Cubs team can rebound. I think they just need to get healthy. This is a good stretch for them to do so because, again, they play tomorrow at 12:05 against Cleveland, which we're going to recap here in a few minutes, or preview here in a few minutes, excuse me.
Oh, we can recap it too.
Yeah, I mean, we can recap it. We will recap it here at Cubs on Tap tomorrow.
Damn right.
And then you got another off day on Thursday, which is huge. And then you got 3 games with Detroit over the weekend before you return home on Monday for the Nationals for that 4-game stretch. So, and obviously, that first game with the Nationals is going to be, I don't want to call it emotional, but nostalgic. Schwarber's back. I got to check if John's going to pitch in that series, but if Lester pitches in that series, like he's going to get a nice tribute video. Like it's going to be an emotion-filled series, not only for the guys on the roster, but for the fans. So you want to be able to take advantage of, maybe get back on track tomorrow, and get it and split the series with Cleveland. And then hopefully you can walk into Detroit over the weekend and sweep them and just call it a day.
Be sweet, right?
Yeah. And we can help our friends out over at Sox on Tap too. You know what I mean? Like everybody's happy. Then the Tigers get swept. The Cubs sweep.
I don't think they're worried too much about Detroit though.
I don't think they are either, but I'm sure they're going to be, hey, if I was a Sox fan, I'd hope the Cubs win tomorrow, right? You gotta.
You're probably hoping they won tonight too.
True, and they didn't, sadly, so they're going to be pissed off, but whatever. But Juice, I will turn it back over to you, sir, for any kind of final thoughts that you have on tonight's game.
Yeah, I thought the big turn in tonight's game was the liner by Duffy too. I think that's if that gets through early on in the game and they played a couple more other than the one. Mm-hmm. This is a game where I think maybe it kind of snowballs for Bieber a little bit more because obviously, as you said, he didn't have his best stuff. But him being able to get out of that was, and also let me say that that kid Class A at the end of it, the closer, that's got to be a really uncomfortable at bat. Let me just say, like out of most of I don't watch a lot of the AL because that's just not who we, have to end up playing 9 times out of 10. I watch a lot of NL baseball with the MLB TV package. But with that said, it's one of the first times I got to see him pitch, and man, that's a really uncomfortable at bat. You got that cutter and 101 mile an hour gas. That's got to be tough.
Yeah, I mean the Indians bullpen. I think they said like on the broadcast on MRT ranks as like the top bullpen overall in baseball, and I think in most categories I think of like the major bullpen categories of the like major 5, they're top 3 in 3 of them, and then they're top 5 in 1 and top 7 in the other. Yeah, so it's like
nuts.
They're absolutely insane. But I agree with you, man. I think them to get through, if they were able to, again, just that timely hitting, going back to, what our buddy Joe Maris said in his article, just that ability to pour it on. Like if this Cubs team figures that out, that ability to pour it on, kind of like they've flirted with us a little bit throughout this season, watch out, man, because this offense has proved they can do it this year, even with, the pitching being a little inconsistent. My takeaway, this one hurts. This one really hurts. I know, obviously, because Javi's out, this is the only reason. But Ildemaro Vargas leaving 7 guys on base just absolutely pains me.
Yeah.
And that literally, he gets one of those base hits like he delivered on Sunday late in that game. And the Cubs could have won this game 4-3. You never know. Obviously, you could do that with this entire.
He's also lineup. Probably after that base hit. That's his one for the week. So I mean, now we can't be greedy over here.
Yeah,
right. Javi's usually in that spot. That's why
I can be greedy, Juice, because in a game that you only lose 3-2, the Indians left 4 guys on base. Only 4. The Cubs left 24 men on base tonight.
Yeah,
that ain't gonna do it. That's not great, Bob.
Bad.
Not great. So that
bad.
Yeah, very bad. Very bad. That's all I've got.
Also, we didn't talk about it, but the whole steal with Jock Peterson with what was that, Vargas at the plate too.
I'm not a fan of that. And I don't want to rip on.
I don't usually harp on David Ross, but that's maybe my one of this year. Like, and then the next at bat is Duffy, and he duffs it and he drops it into right field. I'm like, what the hell? Like, let that one play out. You know, you clearly Bieber didn't have his stuff. I think that's the only maybe managerial for the week, or and at least on the ones that I've been on here, that I can sit and be like, yeah, it's a bad David Ross move.
Well, especially with no outs too, right? Like that, I think is what pains me. If it's like 1 or 2 outs, I think I can kind of live with it a little more, because it's like, because then in that instance, if it's 1 out, the inning's over. So then the Duffy hit never happens, and you don't have that what if moment. But I agree. Like with 0 outs, just let Jock chill at first. Jock's not the best runner. I mean, like,
and he had run back and forth like 4 times too,
right?
And then they picked off twice. And the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm like, David, this play better not be on again, because it's clear that if he did swing and miss, Jock was dead to rights at second.
Yeah,
it was the only one of the night. I went, it's not a good move.
I agree. I'm going to say this jokingly because I love David Ross. This T-shirt is a David Ross T-shirt, but I wonder if he was daydreaming in the dugout about his new girlfriend. I don't know if you saw that, Juice.
Yeah, you know what? Did not know that he was divorced. I must have missed that in February.
I did not either. I had no idea. I literally said that today when I found that out. I was like, wait a minute, he's divorced since when?
Like the complete opposite in terms of like from Ben Zobrist to David Ross. Like Ben Zobrist, when he was divorced, like
it was ugly.
I think my dog knew he was divorced. Like everybody knew. David Ross quietly got divorced in February. Like, did not know that.
But hey, he's dating a very nice and beautiful lady. And
did they trade Darvish like that day, or like how did we miss it?
What other news happened?
That's what you know what I'm saying. Something had to happen that day.
You're so right, dude. Honestly, that's
because we would have talked about that. We would have been like.
At least mentioned
not on a podcast. We would
at least mentioned it.
Yeah, we probably would have been back and forth like, oh, I thought he was a family man, or made a joke about something like.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Cubs group chat would have been very lively.
Yeah,
that day if we actually knew about it. I don't know, man. It's weird, but hey, who knows? Who knows? I mean, if we're being honest, it finally just became public information that him and Tori DeVito. For those that don't know who Tori DeVito is, if you watch Chicago Med, she's I forget the character's name. I haven't watched the TV show in so long, but she's one of the main characters. Go look it up.
Also, IMDb why are there like 50 different Chicago shows now? It's like Chicago PD, Chicago Fire, Chicago Med.
Yeah, there's 3 of them. You didn't know that? That's been around for a couple of years now, Juice. I know you moved out of Chicago, but like it was those 3 when you still lived here.
When do these TV shows air? Is it during the summer?
No, it's during
the winter.
During the winter, yeah, but it's always during the week. It's like Tuesday and Wednesday nights.
Yeah, screw that. I'm not watching that crap.
Yeah, well, you're like me, Juice. You would, if you're watching TV, you're usually watching sports. So it is what it is.
But good for him, I guess. I didn't know he was divorced, man.
Nope, had no idea. That was the mind-blowing fact I learned today, was that he was divorced. It's like, oh, I had no clue. I literally didn't know. I agree with you. Like the whole Ben Zobrist saga, everybody and their brother knew. Like, I bet you people in other countries knew about it. And like, there's people in Chicago that didn't even know divorce.
Also, do you think Jason Hayward's a little pissed off because he paid for the suite all of 2016 so he could have his family there all the time? Like,
he's not pissed.
No, I'm just saying, like, when you pay for something and you're like, okay, like,
in hindsight,
but now, in hindsight, you look back and you're like, what the hell was I doing? Were they fighting all the time in the suite, or like what's the deal here? But
no, I'm sure Jay Hay, if you asked them again, he would do it all.
Oh, absolutely.
And they were such boys, especially when you hear about him talk about their time together in Atlanta. Then you're like, oh, okay, like that was his guy. Like he was gonna do that regardless. It didn't matter what happened.
Also, I believe that was built into the Jay Hay's contract anyway. That's he's actually built in to have the suites. He gets his own suite. I think it's built.
Oh, Hayward does?
Yeah, that the Cubs actually pay for it. I thought Boog was saying something about that on one of the telecasts the other day, which I think is so. Essentially, all he did was just give up his suite. So I mean, sorry,
But
buddy,
that's still pretty dope.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice move.
Or maybe he was like, hey, Cubs, because it's not in Ross's contract, so you can't charge him on the back end or something, I will physically give you the money back for each suite this season so he can have it. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
I would love to know the details of that, though. That's something we can save for.
If we can interview him one time, like both of them, that'd be an hilarious question.
Oh, that'd be electric.
Like a year from now, just be like, Jay, hey, you a little slighted that, you bought all these suites and then, you got divorced anyway, or... We'd probably get kicked out the minute that we asked that question. But
1,000%. They'd be like, come on, bro. And I'm like, oh, but it's so juicy. But it's like,
see, juicy.
Juicy, yeah. Juicy. But we're gonna officially make a Cubs on Tap Twitter comment to make that juicy gossip with juice is gonna be the name of the segment, and we're gonna run with it. And then we're somehow gonna get Juicy Juice or Juicy Fruit Gum to sponsor it too. So it's just the whole juice enigma encaptured.
Pray for my intestines, because everybody knows you go about 3 chews on Juicy Juice Gum before you got to swallow it. That's just the rule, right? Yeah,
more or less. It's when it loses its flavor. There's not much gum out there anymore that keeps its flavor. But before we get into another deep rabbit hole, because for those that have listened before to Cubs on Tap, we can go down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole. It's been done. Go listen to the old shows. We encourage you. They're fun. We dive into some ridiculous rabbit holes, especially if it's me, Juice, and Cody on the show, because those just go off the rails immediately. But we will go ahead and wrap up tonight's game. The Cubs do lose to the Cleveland Indians 3-2. Unfortunately, still a strong outing, from Shane Bieber. Alzolay, a strong outing of his own, but unfortunately, he's on the wrong end of the decision tonight. So we'll go ahead and move forward to Wednesday's game. So for those in the Chicagoland market, Wednesday's game is a 12:10 Central Time first pitch, so 1:10 on the East Coast. It is at Progressive Field in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio. Well, I'll say beautiful so I don't piss anybody off in Cleveland, but
beautiful.
Go check out what Joakim Noah had to say about Cleveland. You'll know my thoughts about Cleveland. But nonetheless, if you are in the Chicagoland market, you can listen to the game on 670 The Score, or you can watch on Marquee Sports Network. If you're in the Cleveland market, WTAM 1100, WMMS 100.7, or Bally Sports Great Lakes. And this game, for those that are out of market, will be on MLB Network. The Cubs are trotting out right-hander Zach Davies tomorrow. Obviously, Davies had a really good outing his last time out. He is 2-2 now on the season with a 6.30 ERA and 18 Ks. He is going up against a rookie, Sam Henches, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. He was originally slated to make his first MLB start last week, but an opener was used before him to lighten his load, according to MLB.com. So this will actually be his first true start, and I believe our buddy Joe Maris said this will be his 5th career appearance. So kind of some fresh blood for the Cubs on Wednesday against him. So Juice, nobody on the Cubs has faced him, so I don't think you have, obviously, any insights onto a Fly the W player. But I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you. Give us a little bit of a preview for tomorrow's game and what you're expecting, and a Fly the W pick before we get out of here.
Do whatever you can to split. Don't ever get, beat up 2-0 when you go into, especially these AL Central teams. I mean, I don't mean to badmouth that division, but it's bad. I mean, minus the White Sox, that's not a division worth, fretting over when you're everybody else kind of bad,
It's bad, okay?
Yeah, it's bad. So win tomorrow, and then roll it into Detroit, like you said, and hopefully get a sweep there. And I think a 4-1 road trip is do they go on the road after that? A 4-1 Central trip would be something nice for us, right? That would be something to hang your hat on. With that said, I hope my analysis for tomorrow is I hope the guys who were out tonight, your Chris Bryant, your Javi Baez, are back in the lineup tomorrow. That's my hope, because if that's the case against a rookie, you got to think the Cubs have some good chances. And for Davies, just build on what you did, last time out. Start to get some feel for that changeup for the splitter, and finding the strike zone at the corners. That's the key for him, as it is the same thing for Kyle Hendricks. Just seems like those two guys have just missed their spots a little bit. And they've been hit around often because of it. So get out there and let's get a dub tomorrow. I'm actually going to go with Davies for my fly the W play. I think that he builds on. He has another good game, and I actually like the matchup for him based on this lineup from what I saw and the way they swing. I think a soft tosser tomorrow, guy who can locate his pitches, is something that kind of plays well against Cleveland. So, which probably means we'll get like an 8-7 game, and that's just because I said it. But I do. I think that I think his stuff plays pretty good against Cleveland.
Yeah, karma has a fun way of spiting people, Juice. I think you and I know that all too well with our buddy Cody after he said he would eat a jar of mayonnaise if the Cubs swept the Dodgers. And look what happened. So, and guess what he ended up doing? So I feel that. I really do. But yeah, man, I agree with you. You know, another good start from Davies I think would be great because he needs to build toward, you know, worst case scenario, build toward being a trade chip at the deadline. Best case scenario, just build toward being a quality pitcher in this rotation to help this team get to the playoffs. So I'm right there with you on that. And for the love of God, pour some runs on, man. Like I agree with Joe Maris. Big shout out to him. Like, bro, pour some runs on. If you have the opportunity, especially against a rookie who's making his 5th career appearance, like get into his head early, make him have to beat you. This Cubs team makes good at bats for the most part. Like, especially this season, you know, Duffy is the king of great at-bats at this point. Like you said, hopefully KB's back tomorrow. He's had a good season. Would love to see Anthony Rizzo get going. I think it's time for Tony Two Chains to come back out because he's been a little quiet so far this year. But, you know, just something out of this Cubs team. Hopefully, like you said, they get a split tomorrow. Do whatever it takes. Roll into your off day on Thursday and then to go kick the shit out of the Detroit Tigers over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday up in Detroit. So, well, Juice, who do I go with the fly the W? This is tough. I like your Davies pick. I really do. You know what? Don't let Jock get hot. I'm going to go with Jock Peterson tomorrow.
I was hoping you were going to go that route.
I'm going to go with Jock Peterson tomorrow because I'll tell you what, man, he's been really good. You know, coming off of that homestand, obviously he didn't play. You know, I think actually he might have played every game. But if I remember correctly, he was 7 for 14 with 4 RBIs, 3 for 4 alone in that final Pirates game with a couple of runs driven in. He looked good tonight, had a hit tonight. You know, just a guy that if he gets going with the amount of depth that's on this team, especially once they get healthy, that's going to be absolutely huge for this Cubs team going forward. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Jock because if you let Jock get hot,
due for a home run too.
He really is. I'm ready for him to just absolutely pimp one out in the right field. It's going to be magical. I hope it happens. I really do. Just take the kid deep, like especially if he's leading off. You know what? That's what I want. I want a Jock Peterson leadoff home run. Juice, I will tell you what. Here it comes. Here it comes.
We got a bet.
I will drink a half a solo cup of Malort.
Whew.
If Jock Peterson leads the game off tomorrow with a home run.
You heard it here, folks.
Yes, it is on record, and I will do it. I still owe a video to the public. I need to run down my street.
He's got to lead off, though. What if he hits what if he's like 5th?
Well, he's been leading off, so I'm going to assume he's leading off again because I don't think Ross wants to mess with the lineup. But God forbid he isn't leading off if in his first plate appearance he goes deep.
Okay. I just had to make sure that we.
Yeah, no, you got to figure out that gray area. I fully respect that and fully understand it. But yeah, man, half a red solo cup of Malort. I finally bought a bottle because I got to do a video for Justin Fields becoming a Chicago Bear too. Because I spoke that into existence by saying I would take a shot of Malort and do a sprint down my street screaming like an idiot, saying that Justin Fields is a Chicago Bear. So,
damn right.
You know, again, man, karma and the universe have weird ways of working like that. So, but yeah, don't let Jock get hot. So I'm gonna go ahead and take Jock for tomorrow's game. Well, Juice, I want to remind everybody that Cubs on Tap is the official Cubs podcast of the On Tap Sports Network. You can go ahead and check out all of our great literary and podcasting works over at www.ontapsportsnet.com and at OnTapSportsNet on social media. That's Facebook, that's Instagram, that's Twitter. You can also follow the pod specific account, which is at Cubbies on Tap, which is Cubbies. We are on both Twitter and Instagram there. Cody does a really good job doing a lot with the Instagram account. You can find all of us via the Twitter account. I am at Luce on Tap on Twitter. Juice is at Juice on Tap on Twitter. We're the Juice and Luce combo. That's just one of my favorite things to say when we are on the show together. And we have all great coverage. We mentioned Bears on Tap earlier. Blackhawks and Bulls wrapping up their seasons this coming week. We got that coverage handled, as well as all of your favorite Chicago sports teams. So go ahead and check us out once again, www.ontapsportsnet.com and at OnTapSportsNet on social media. The OnTap Sports Network. Go ahead and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Well, Juice, this has been fun, man. Despite the loss, 3-2 loss for the Cubs tonight to the Cleveland Indians. It was fun talking with you, and it's always fun talking baseball. Let's get out of here the only way we know how.
Let's go Cubs.
Let's go Cubbies.